Hey everyone, I'm Tassenix and welcome back to another mod guide. This time we're getting into Nute Gunray. He is a member under the Admiral Trench leadership, but he used to be, so-called Galactic Legend Nute back in the day in 5 versus 5. He's still a serviceable leadership in 3 versus 3, and we'll cover that, when we get a moment. But before we get too much further, let's go ahead and talk about the TLDR for Nute Gunray. His set type should be speed and health, or potency if you had to. I'd say you're shooting for about 100% potency to have naturally on this character. It's not likely that he's going to get a tech in this fight from Wat Tambor, so make sure that you have about that 100% potency. I find that that's fairly easy to do with a potency cross, and I'm able to run health, which increases his survivability. But yeah, potency if you had to. Arrow should be speed. Circle should be health over protection. Triangle should be health over protection. And the cross should be potency, like I said. But if you're using the 2-piece of potency anyway, and you're somehow able to be up over 100% potency without using the potency primary, then go for health over protection. His turn order is third in the fight in terms of modded speed, okay? Your Dooku is first, followed by Wat Tambor, and then Nute Gunray after that. Stat priority should be speed over potency, and like I say here below, you're not giving him a tech most of the time, so try and have him about 100%, but after that, prioritize speed over it, still within respect to the turn order, though. And then, yeah, after you have that potency mark and you've got that speed met for your turn order, try and stack up as much health, and then I guess protection after that. All right. Let's go ahead and talk about the leadership. He is going to be under Admiral Trench, so we'll highlight that real quick and make sure we understand how that might affect his modding. So Admiral Trench's leadership highlights for Feared Tactician. Separatist allies have plus 30% max health, max protection, and potency, and have plus 10% speed for each ally with tech and each enemy with extortion. Whenever a Separatist ally inflicts a debuff on an enemy, they gain 20% offense for 3 turns, stacking limit once per turn. While a Separatist ally has a tech, they have plus 100% potency. You won't be having that for the most part. When a non-Geo Separatist ally gains Bactoid Shield Generator tech, they dispel stealth from themselves, and while they have that shield generator, they are immune to stealth and gain plus 100% critical avoidance and defense. That is reserved for Jango Fett, but we just keep that in mind in the back of our head. Okay, let's go ahead and dig into his kit. First, his unique, Viceroy's Reach. Whenever a Separatist ally inflicts a debuff, they also deal 5% max health damage to that enemy, which can't be evaded, and enemies with extortion have minus 30% and offense. So extortion is inflicted by Nute Gunray. We'll see that in a moment. But it is neat to remember that we can try to aim that at the highest damage person on the enemy's team, if you're ever using this team on offense. For the most part, Admiral Trench is a defensive team for me. The first time Nute Gunray is defeated, he is revived with 100% health and turn meter. Every time Nute Gunray is revived, he stealths for 2 turns. So it's important to remember here, he can revive himself just the one time, but this second clause is acknowledging that Wat Tambor can actually revive Separatist allies, and anytime Nute is revived in any way, he's under stealth for 2 turns. Still though, he gets the plus, he gets his 100% health back, and that's why I say skew for the health primaries and secondaries, I guess. To maximize his survivability over the course of the fight, assuming that he gets knocked down, even just the once. Okay, let's talk about his basic, Hard Bargain. Deal physical damage to target enemy. If the target had extortion, remove the cooldown of Motivate by 1. Reduce the cooldown of Motivate by 1. Alright, Motivate's his second special. We'll cover that in a moment, but let's dig into this extortion business now, yeah? His first special, Dubious Dealings. Grant the extortion ability to target enemy. If they already had extortion, grant it to the weakest enemy that does not have it. Then inflict speed down on all enemies for 2 turns and deal 20% max health damage to enemies with extortion. So all enemies with extortion, which cannot be evaded. Enemies who use the extortion ability they have grant profit, the effect profit to all allied separatists. All right. Extortion says this is the effect you're giving to the enemy. It actually shows as another granted ability for them, okay? And it puts an icon above their head showing they have it. All right, the extortion ability says remove extortion, recover 10% health for that enemy character, and then grant separatist enemies, your guys, your allies, the profit attribute. And profit is defined as plus 10% critical chance and critical damage per stack, maximum of 50% until the end of battle. So you can keep putting out extortion, they can keep dispelling it, but you can only gain the benefit of 5 stacks of profit. All right. His second special, Motivate. Dispel all buffs on target enemy and increase their cooldowns by 1, which can't be evaded. If the target had extortion, call all other separatist allies to assist. So it's an offensive dispel, it's a cooldown increase, and a mass assist call. Nasty skill. See it that it has a cooldown of 4. So knowing that you can use your basics strategically to hit enemies that do have extortion, help you bring that cooldown around that much sooner. Okay? All right, and then just for the sake of argument for 3 versus 3, we'll talk about Backroom Subterfuge. Separatist allies have plus 15% speed and potency for each enemy with extortion. This is hideous, guys. Anytime you're fighting this or dealing with this in 3 versus 3 or something, this is why when Nute as a leader puts extortion on a character, you need to pay the extortion, give them their profit immediately. Okay, this is a really nasty synergy. While Nute Gunray is alive, each enemy that ends their turn with extortion dispels their own buffs and grants extortion to another random enemy that doesn't have it. So between this 15% speed and potency gain, and then that it gets to spread for free from each enemy that ends their turn having extortion, and then knowing that dubious dealings can put further extortion onto the field, you cannot afford to ignore it when it is Nute leadership. If he's just a member on the team, like it's on Admiral Trench, you can decide when you want to drop it because it doesn't get out of hand unless you ignore it for a couple of turns, right? Nute will eventually get that next extortion cooldown out, and you could start having a problem after that. But when it's the leadership, got to pay your taxes and get that out of the way real quick. Let's talk about team comps and turn order. So I do want to acknowledge this one just briefly, because this is about how this team functions under Admiral Trench. But in 3 versus 3, it is a very classic combination to Omicron, Qui-Gon Jinn, JKA, and Cam, using Nute, Django, and B1. It's a classic counter, and most of the time it works. At the time of this recording, there's a Datacron meta for Jedi that allow them to stun, an unresistible, unavoidable stun, whenever they're using a special ability. So right now, this counter isn't so hot against Qui-Gon, but still, it exists, and it can never be forgotten because it's a super high value to pull off 3 versus 3. So that said, as far as these other 3 versus 3 comps go, I'll point you back to the main Admiral Trench video where I explain when you might want to be using these. I will say that Nute Gunray in 3 versus 3 makes the least sense to me. He's not doing as much as I think other characters that you can comprise for 3 versus 3. But I have seen other very highly rated players experiment with using him, especially when there's a Datacron meta that set, like, there's usually like a level 6 ability, or maybe there could be a Nute Gunray level 9 someday that allows extortion to more easily or more rapidly spread. That could be a serious consideration for using 3s. I don't personally use it, I don't personally like it, but I did feel obligated to at least mention it. Okay, and of course here for 5 versus 5, this is your main team. All these characters for all these compositions, 3s and 5 alike, are shown in terms of the modded speed order, right? So, you know, for any of these, like this first one, Dooku is your fastest, followed by Watt, followed by Trench. That's the way to interpret this tab. That said, though, this is your main 5 here, with Dooku sounding off in terms of speed, then Watt, then Nute, then Trench, then Django. All right, let's talk about the mods themselves. So in my case, I checked a couple other players, and some folks are also doing like me. Like ideally, I would have the triangle and the circle both be health to take advantage of that highest life total when he comes back, when he is revived. But I'm a little constrained on health primaries on triangle these days. So I did what I had to do. I put down a protection. It'll help him survive that much longer for his first life, and I'm happy to take even that. Of course, it's the speed primary arrow, potency primary cross, and yeah, you can see as far as stats go, the survivability numbers, it's just better if it's more health. I wouldn't worry too much about it. The speed is 334. He's pretty quick for a newt. I don't think you have to be this fast. It's just important relative to your overall turn order. In the Count Dooku video, being that he's first in terms of modded speed, I see him up in my neck of the neighborhood, 350 plus, often 360 plus. Watt Tambour's usually in the 340s, something like that. And so you could have Nute in the 330s, right? It's important to just have that turn order, okay? So you don't have to be quite as screaming fast, but this is the idea. Potency, he's just a little under 100% potency. I'd like to tweak that. I'd like that to be just a little bit higher. It might be something I'll try and look at here in the very near future. But yeah, 100% is going to be the least mark that I would try to go for, because this guy is not going to get the benefit from Admiral Trench's lead that says whoever has a tech has plus 100% potency. So we actually have to have a significant amount of potency on him. Excluding the trench leadership. I know it gives you another 30%, but you don't want to rely on that. You want to think about the character. 100% potency as a base will help you get the most value out of the potential of that AoE speed down. That is an incredibly rare skill to be able to inflict on an enemy. AoE speed down, I want to say like Jedi Cal is maybe like the only other character I can think of that does it off the top of my head. I'm sure somebody in the comments will tell me I'm incorrect, but that's the idea. All right, as far as, you can see the offense is incidental here. I'm not really worried about it. And yeah, I would say otherwise, applications, I do cover that in the trench video in terms of, what types of team you're taking against your Admiral Trench team in 3s and 5s. So I encourage you to check that out there. But that about wraps this one up. So thank you guys so much for tuning in, and if you liked this video, please give it a like, hit subscribe on the channel to be clued in when new videos drop, and always looking forward to your comments, your conversations here on Discord. Thank you so much, and until next time, it's been real, it's been awesome, it's been real awesome. Take care.